Yes, the opening day of the Conference of the Parties, COP28, taking place here in Dubai, and not only essential for business, but essential for the global climate. In fact, importantly, there'll be a global stocktake of progress in limiting climate change and protecting the environment at this edition of COP28. Monday, December the 4th, we'll see a special day here at COP28, which will be dedicated completely to trade and investment. This is the first time that trade has taken centre stage at a COP event as being part of a cornerstone of economic growth for the global economy. Talks on Monday will be led by the World Trade Organization, the International Chamber of Commerce, the World Economic Forum, and also the government economic departments. I want to bring in Stephen Anderson, who's Middle East Strategy and Markets Leader at PwC now. Great to see you, Stephen.
Great to be here, Greg.
What key role does business have to play, do you think, when it comes to climate change?
So business has a pretty fundamental key role in climate change, and in particular if we're going to keep 1.5 alive. So we always issue just before COP our net zero economy index. Can be quite depressing reading. That tells us that we've got to decarbonise at a rate of around about 17% between now and 2030 to keep 1.5 alive. Sadly, from 2000 to 2022, we've only managed about 1.4% and only 2.5% last year. Business plays a huge role in those emissions, and therefore business committing to, say, net zero with strong science-based targets is pretty fundamental.
Now, you talk about commitment just there with businesses. When does it then evolve from commitment and pledges into action?
Great question. There's always lots of pledges, and I think the big headlines here will be things like 3 times renewables, 2 times energy efficiency, and lots of finance. But from a business perspective, you want to see that businesses are complying and they are going to hit their pledges. And what we're seeing quietly here is regulation. Regulation is coming. The EU have just issued this CSRD, which is a directive which requires regulation and disclosure for many large businesses in the EU and many outside. And what gets measured gets done, and that's going to happen as soon as next year.
Now, Stephen, this is obviously a 12-day event. It started today, but the message, the commitment goes on long beyond this, doesn't it?
That's right. We have an old phrase in my old country, a puppy's not just for Christmas, and climate change is definitely not just for COP. I think it's important that the real work really starts once the COP's over, around how do we actually meet those pledges, how do we move forward.
And regarding PwC, what are you actively doing at this edition of COP28?
So we're involved in the Blue Zone, so we're running a number of sessions in the Blue Zone. We're working with many of our partners, Microsoft, ENBD and others in the Green Zone. And back in our offices, we're running a whole bunch of events, both for startups. We spoke about some really interesting climate tech, and doing lots of events for youth, because we find a lot of our younger people in our 11,000 people we have in the region, they're really interested and they want to get involved.
What would you like to see come out of this edition of COP28 to make a change?
I think some of those big headline commitments, I think we're going to see them come to fruition. There's lots happening in the world, so it's a challenging time to run a COP. But hopefully we will see that commitment to triple renewables, to double energy efficiency, to fix climate finance, so there'll be some finances coming our way, and maybe some good pledges around loss and damage.
All right, we'll leave it there. But Stephen Anderson, thank you very much for joining us. As you can see, a clear message there that, action by the business community is central and a central feature of COP28. This is a major opportunity, in fact, for companies large and small to engage with governments from all over the world who are in attendance. COP28 aims to find those solutions to the planet's climate issues. There's a strong chance that progress can be made at this edition of COP28. But for now, me, Greg Fairley, I will hand you back to the studio.